Hey, and welcome back to That's Not Okay. Spot the red flags, reclaim your love life. I'm your host, Alyssa, and today we're going to untangle something that gets misread all the time: enmeshment. This is for anyone who's dated someone who treats their mom or dad like they are their top priority, regardless of how it impacts you. Or for the people who feel like their in-laws have complete emotional control over their spouse rather than supporting your independence as a couple. So let's talk about why this dynamic is not okay, even when it wears a mask of family loyalty. So what is enmeshment? It's a lack of healthy emotional boundaries within a family system. It looks like someone whose personal identity is subsumed by the family, so they don't really have a personhood outside of who they are within their parent-child relationship. Typically, it got this way because love and approval within the family are conditional based on compliance, sameness, and emotional fusion. There's not a lot of conflict because you're rewarded for keeping the family unit intact and playing your role within it. And typically, the parents who perpetuate this cycle have experienced it themselves, and it looks like a parent treating their child as a therapist, as their spouse, and as an extension of themselves. So enmeshment isn't closeness, it's control disguised as love. Let's talk about the child roles in an enmeshed family system. So typically within an enmeshed family system, there is a golden child. This child is over-idealized and emotionally fused with the enmeshed parent. And they feel a lot of pressure to uphold family ideals and suppress their individual needs. And they are rewarded for it. So they get all the attention, they get all the praise, they get all the benefits of playing the right role, being the child that supports their parents' emotions, being a listening ear, being a shoulder to cry on. And if they in any way try to differentiate, if they try to find some independence that doesn't align with their parents' expectations, they're punished for that. So that might look like the guilt trip or the silent treatment or just disappointment. I mean, you can only imagine what it feels like to be showered with positive attention from a parent only to have that disappear overnight. You are no longer, I guess the feeling would be you're no longer loved, you're no longer wanted, you're no longer liked by your parent. I don't think anyone wants to feel that way, that their parents' love is conditional, but that's what that looks like. And they may not put it in those words, but this system typically starts so early that this becomes their normal. I didn't deserve my parents' love because I did something that hurt them by differentiating. And so I need to be the good child. And we know as outsiders to systems like that, or at least people who are outsiders to systems like that, know that a parent's love should not be conditioned on making the parent happy. But that's how this typically works. Now, in families that have more than one child, you also might have the scapegoat. So these children are usually the most emotionally aware. And they are blamed for the family dysfunction because they name issues within the family. They might call the parent out for improper behavior. They might get upset with some of the treatment they receive at home. And so they are absolutely blamed for any conflict within the family, causing the rift. They are resented for disrupting the fragile fantasy of like the perfect family, of family unity. Oh, they're selfish. They can't get in line. Like they are absolutely blamed for any problem, any ripple on the lake. And they are punished because they see clearly and speak up. So if you have more than one child in the family, there's usually one of those. And then finally, you might get the forgotten child or the lost child. This child is emotionally neglected and invisible. I mean, all the attention and praise is going to the golden child. So these children are not aligned enough to be golden. Like they typically fly under the radar in order to like avoid their problematic parent or parents. But yeah, they're not rebellious enough to be scapegoated. Like they don't cause any issues, but they don't feed the parent's ego or meet the parent's emotional needs the way the golden child does. So they just learn to self-abandon in order to avoid conflict. Like they don't assert their needs, they don't state anything. They just kind of disappear into the system. If you have an only child, I mean, you might end up with someone who exhibits all three. Like, so my question would be, I guess what I'm trying to answer is, can a child function in more than one role within an enmeshed family? And the answer is yes, absolutely. So roles aren't fixed. They are assigned, withdrawn, and shifted based on the parent's emotional needs, stress levels, or desire for control. Especially in small families or for only children, one child may have to fill all the emotional gaps. So like a child could be the golden child when they're compliant, self-sacrificing, and emotionally fused with the parent, like they don't cause any issues. But if they reach for independence, draw boundaries, or question the system at any point, they can become the scapegoat and they are punished for that deviation. And in periods of like parental withdrawal or burnout, like if there's something else going on in the parent's life, like they are work focused and emotionally unavailable, and it's no longer convenient to get their like emotional, feed from their children. They have other things going on that are more important. The child can default to forgotten or lost in the system, and they can quietly begin suffering from their unmet needs, emotionally neglected feelings, but they're expected to self-manage, self-contain at that point. So in an enmeshed system, a child's role isn't based on who they are. It's based on how well they preserve the parent's sense of control. So I want to reiterate that this is absolutely not love. And I want to explain now why enmeshment does not equal a close family. So at first glance, especially if you're an outsider, like a new girlfriend, a new boyfriend to a system like this, it can look like amazing. You see that there's no real conflict. If you spend any length of time with them, everyone, seems to be very coherent. Like everyone, the jokes are set and everyone just seems like, and they want you to be a part. They're thoughtful of you. Like it can look like that. It can really look great initially, but typically you start to see some cracks in the veneer pretty quickly, because like if you are from a secure attachment style, you notice like you just start to pick up on these things. So like in close families, truly close families, individuality is celebrated. Like you are allowed to have your own opinions. You're allowed to think for yourself. You are allowed to disagree with your parents and kind of assert yourself, and they're still going to love you and celebrate that, and maybe change their mind based on what you contribute to the picture. But in enmeshed families, individuality is seen as a betrayal. Like You're supposed to continue to play your role. Your primary identity is that role, the good son, the golden child. Like that's who you are. And so disagreements really not tolerated, and maybe superficial, like, oh, chocolate ice cream's better than vanilla, like that's fine. But if you start to get to deeper levels of disagreement, you have broken the family illusion of like perfection and cohesion, and that's not acceptable. So I can think of examples like where at an inappropriate age the parent is telling the child granularly what to do. Like I've seen this in my relationships in ways that seem so odd. Like this person should have their own autonomy by now. Why is this happening where they are ordering the child around like they're still, a child? And you can also see it in like, I've seen parents who speak for their children. Even though they're adults, like they still feel a possession and an ownership over their child's thoughts, actions, and beliefs. And so they feel they can answer on that child's behalf, even though the child's an adult. These are some of the early warning signs that I've seen in my own experience where it raised a red flag for me, like, what is going on? It just didn't seem right to me. There was no individuation or individuality for the specific person that I'm thinking of. And that was something I thought was concerning. I tried to consider it endearing, like, oh, maybe he's really shy or something. But over time, I just thought it was like controlling. But yes, in healthy family systems, real disagreement is like tolerated and it's even celebrated in the right context. Enmeshed families demand sameness. Like, you are a reflection of me. You are a representation of me, and I own you. They may not think it, they may not say it, or they may even give a veneer of like, oh, child, you are a, strong, independent person, but their actions undermine those words in every substantial way. So again, just to kind of close that topic, closeness equals emotional support. Enmeshment equals emotional fusion, manipulation, and guilt, which are all ways of establishing control. So here are some symptoms that your partner is enmeshed or from an enmeshed family, or if you are enmeshed and from an enmeshed family. I want to also just give you like grace that you didn't recognize this. If you are the person from this, it's really hard when you've kind of been robbed of the ability to think for yourself. And I think it's emotionally stunting. And this is your normal. You've known nothing else. Parents who perpetrate these behaviors, they typically learned them too. So this is your normal. So just give yourself grace, but hear me when I say, no, it's not normal. It's absolutely unhealthy. So with signs of enmeshment, like if the parent or one of the parents or both of the parents are treated like they are your spouse's or your partner's primary emotional support, and this can look like almost romantic attachment, like if there's some sort of disagreement, there can be like overreactions to the idea that the parent is sick or in pain, or the parent might speak in just almost romanticized terms about the child, where you're like, am I weird to be weirded out right now? This can look like that, but it's not necessarily. Like, that's in one case. It can also just look like your child or your partner is like overly upset at the idea that their parent might be upset with them. Like, they might be shut down by the idea of disappointing the parent. Or they may not know what to do if their parent's not present. They may over rely on their parents' input. And so, looking like they defer to the decisions of their parents even far into adulthood, like they think their parents know better than they do. And I'm not saying it's not right to seek wisdom, but, at some point you've got to trust yourself. Like, I have good judgment and I'm going to, make right decisions. At least if you have a functioning brain and prefrontal cortex, you should be able to say, hey, this is what I think. I can seek outside opinions, but I've got my own. That can look like, so another symptom is it can look like chronic guilt when asserting independence, just severe guilt. Fear of disappointing their parents outweighs loyalty to their spouse or their partner. They might, feel caught in the middle when it really shouldn't be like that. I mean, there should be no question that okay, my new family is right here and I'm starting my own thing. I love my parents and will always support them, but my emotional loyalty has to be to my spouse now. So I've got to support my family, and my parents have to support each other. They've got each other now. So that's what that would look like. Emotional regression during family visits. So if you notice your partner or yourself, you just mentally and automatically let your parents make decisions for you, and you kind of become the child again, that would be a sign that you are just indoctrinated into playing a role. The inability to set boundaries, it can be within your family origin, but it can also be typically, again, enmeshment is all about blurred boundaries. There are no boundaries. Boundaries are bad in enmeshed systems. And so it can also look like your spouse or your partners or your inability to tell people no, to set boundaries outside of, your relationship, because you were never really allowed to say no, to assert independence. You were shamed for saying no. You were always supposed to say yes to whatever the parents went with, really. Not always is probably a little too heavy, but by and large, you were supposed to defer to their wisdom. They know better. You just are supposed to follow what they do, or at least that's how you are coached to feel, even if it's not explicitly said. There can be parental intrusion into your relationships, which is normalized, over-involvement, the parent giving relationship advice, the enmeshed child seeking inappropriate levels of parental input on relationship dynamics, a reliance on the parent's interpretation, or the parent is giving get her flowers, do this, do that. And, even telling this new partner, how to handle things, what to do in ways that feel absolutely intrusive and overbearing. And if you raise an issue with that as the outsider, something you're not good, you are not accepting their love, when it's really control, but they want to frame it as, I love you so much that I just want to tell you what I think you should do, which is not love. It's just control. And they view your requests for space like it's an attack on the family. Oh, you're not going to just fall into line as the new potential partner? Well, now you're going to break up our family. This is how we are, and they're not willing to adapt, essentially, because the family system is sick. So this can impact your mental health in huge ways. I mean, you, as a partner in a romantic relationship, you can feel like the outsider in your own relationship. I've definitely experienced this. Or you can feel like you are dating your spouse and their family and not really know where your spouse or partner begins and their parents end. You don't know if their opinion is their own, or if they've, gotten it from their parent. Like, it's very confusing. That should not even be a question that runs in your mind. But in this kind of context, it can be. So you just feel overwhelmed and outnumbered in your own relationship when it should be 50-50. It should be just the two of you. Your boundaries can be disrespected, undermined, or dismissed. They're labeled as bad and controlling and selfish when really it's the opposite. Like, the person who is violating your boundaries is typically the partner who's violating your boundaries is the controlling one, the one who wants it their way at all costs and thinks your thoughts, feelings, and needs are in the way of what they want to do. Like, that should never be the case. When you are in a relationship, you should be the end, not the means to the end. You are the end. And so they should be doing things to make it where your relationship, like a healthy relationship, is what the goal is with you. And so if you are feeling like you're in the way of what they really want, you're not the end. You're not the primary relationship person like the parents are or work is, like something else. You are the real, I guess, other woman, so to speak. You are the mistress to your enmeshed spouses or partners' true romantic or emotional tie and priority, which is typically their family. So you start to feel like you're in the way. You can feel gaslit for not being understanding or being too sensitive. Like, if you raise issues, there were no issues before you, so the issue must be you. We didn't have a problem until you came along, and now you're... So basically, the new partner can become the scapegoat if they have any issue with the dynamic. And the sad thing is you lose emotional intimacy also because your partner is emotionally committed elsewhere. Like, you are just getting the scraps. Their heart belongs to someone else, and that's typically one or both of their parents. You're never gonna get it all. It's not yours. You are supposed to play a role in their system. You're not there for your spouse. You're there for the system. And so, like, that's supposed to be your role. And if you get in the way of that plan, then no, you're not, it's not about your feelings. It's about the system's feelings. And there can be constant tension and anxiety around family gatherings or parental approval because, if you raise an issue once, you are the problem. And so you know how important it is to your spouse. It can cause friction at home if there's any negativity or disagreement with their extended family. So you just are constantly worrying about, is so-and-so mad at me because I mentioned that this bothered me? And the answer is usually yes. In these enmeshed systems, they hold a grudge for sure. And so just you're not going to win in an enmeshed family system if you are the outsider. Unless your partner is willing to see it and change. So if you are enmeshed, there is hope. As always, I believe that anything is possible if you have a functioning prefrontal cortex, you can change, but you've got to do serious internal work, and that means therapy. This is an abusive system. Basically, if you were enmeshed, you are a child of abuse, psychological abuse, and that is not insignificant. So you need help to undo the damage of a lifetime of being abused. So what's necessary for change? If you're with an enmeshed partner, how do you really know that they're going to be willing to change or able to change? You need an awareness. Your partner has to recognize the enmeshment, not deny it or minimize it. They need to grieve. You need to see that your partner is grieving, which means they're mourning the false sense of closeness and loyalty that was built on fear. That is true processing. This is something to grieve. You believed you had this beautiful, happy family, and that it was normal for love to feel like normal to be guilted and have received silent treatments and have been there to support your parents in ways that are more appropriate to like a romantic partner. You think these are all virtues of love. And so you should mourn once you realize, oh, those are actually toxic behaviors. Like, you should mourn that you didn't have a proper definition of love taught to you. There have to be boundaries. Your enmeshed partner has to be willing to draw real, painful, and consistent boundaries, not just one-time declarations. They have to say, my relationship with you all has to change. It doesn't mean I don't love you, but I have learned some very unhealthy behaviors, and my spouse, my partner, has to come first now. They need therapy, like I said, preferably with someone who understands family systems and trauma. They have to differentiate. They have to go through the process of becoming their own person and developing a self that's not dependent on family approval, because they were never allowed to do that as a teenager. Like, they were punished likely for any pulling away from the parent, any rebellion, so to speak. Even though that's totally normal, they were shamed and taught that that was like evil because it hurt the parents' feelings, and hurting the parents' feelings is abuse. You know, like, everything's inverted in this worldview. You're not supposed to hurt anyone's feelings, even if you're speaking something about being hurt yourself or standing up for yourself. Like, you're just supposed to not make waves. And so you got to differentiate. And finally, there's got to be accountability. Your partner has to choose you over their parents, not just in words, but in structure and practice. Like, they should be offering you reassurance, because technically the enmeshment is a type of betrayal. It's like cheating on you. And so, yeah, they should be constantly reassuring you, I believe. Like, maybe not all the time, but you should not get any pushback if you are hurt and expressing hurt and need reassurance from your partner. Like, if they are like recognizing the serious damage that this system did to themselves and others, namely you, then there's going to be some serious accountability, and that's what you should expect, and that's what you deserve. And so, in sum, do not let them give lip service to, yeah, I know my mom's a little, over, she just loves so much. Don't let them minimize this. Don't let them say, I am a little dependent on my parents, but I'm going to change. No, you need to see that they are not equivocating. They are not playing games with your heart. They are not just stalling and going to play both sides for the rest of your life. You do not deserve to feel like the other woman in your relationship or the other man. Like, you are the primary partner. And again, if you're not seeing these signs, they're not going to change, and you're going to have to make some difficult decisions about getting into a healthy, non-abusive relationship, because these dynamics are like a type of mental and emotional abuse. Typically, you're gaslit. Typically, you are demonized or guilt-tripped or shamed for not playing the part. And again, those are abusive behaviors. Typically, they get angry with you for fighting against the system. You don't need to stress about those types of things. Life is hard enough without a toxic family and without a toxic spouse or partner. Making it harder, having you have to fight for your basic emotional needs, like, that is not okay. So in conclusion, enmeshment isn't just a red flag. It's often the invisible root of emotional betrayal in relationships. If your partner is married to their parents emotionally, they may not be free to marry you. And I know that's loaded, like the idea of emotional incest, but enmeshment is a type of emotional incest. Again, your parents are supposed to be there for their children's development. They're not supposed to be there to meet the parents' emotional needs. Like, love can be mutual, they can benefit from it, but it's a privilege. It's not their entitlement. because you're born and you're your own person. And so love is supposed to be freely given. You're not supposed to be shamed or punished or robbed of your autonomy for showing different thoughts, different feelings, different opinions than your parent, or not taking your parents' advice all the time, etc. So it is a type of marriage to the parent. Their commitment is to the parent. So, don't let that scare you off. Enmeshment is just a type of emotional incest that doesn't necessarily have to be romantic, but it can look like it a little bit. And so, again, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me. If this hit home for you, if any of it was triggering, just take a breath, take some space to think and process, and remember, you are not the problem for noticing if something feels off. Until next time, spot the red flags and reclaim your love life.